Hey guys, it's Troy. We're here for the Triangle Pen Show, and I got both boys here with me. Oh, God help me. But anyway, they're in a different location this year. So we're at like a DoubleTree by Hilton over in Durham, North Carolina, which is a little further west than we're used to. But hey, we're here. This is like the third location they've had it since I started coming to pen shows. So we're gonna go inside. You can tell one of them just woke up from the trip, so he's a little tired, but hopefully we'll do good. Hey guys, anything you want to say before we go in?
I'm just tired because I'm tired.
My boys are tired. Maybe that'll mean that they'll...
See.
You can't see? Well, here it is right here, guys. Well, anyway, hey, we're going to go inside and hopefully we'll have a good pen show. Don't have a lot of time today. It's the only day that I've got to be able to come in. Just Friday afternoon. That's all I've got. So we'll show you what we do. Okay, so you saw that little introduction that we did out in the parking lot before going into the pen show, and I decided to go ahead and still include it here. Why not? But, you know, I took an executive decision while we were walking around and when we went into the show. You know, like I said, it was a different venue than it had been previously. It's a really nice-looking hotel. It's in a decent area. And I know how to get there. Unfortunately, my GPS didn't know how to get there apparently as well as I did, because it took me all through some areas that never should have taken me, to hop off the interstate, go through a little town, back onto the interstate. It's like, what? This isn't a better way to get there than I already knew, so go figure. But we got there right around 1 o'clock or so, and the show was going to start at around 1 o'clock for people who were not weekend pass holders or early traders. And to be a trader, let's say for that early day, I had to pay $25, and I could have gotten there at 8 o'clock in the morning, which I almost would rather have done than to put up with the Research Triangle, North Carolina traffic on the way home. I mean, hey, I travel through this area all the time. This is a local show to me. It's only 1 hour from my house, and my office is not too far from where they're at. I travel that area a lot, all the time. And the last place I want to be is in that area around 5 o'clock when the show was going to end for the day. And so we did end up leaving a little early, and it was a small show, so it wasn't hard to leave a little earlier than we thought. But anyway, we got there at 1 o'clock, which normal admission was $10 in order to get in between 1 and 5 o'clock. So, okay, fine. We'll go ahead and do that. And so that's exactly what we did. We were there right at 1. I was looking forward to a couple of things. Number one, seeing some people that I knew. There were some vendors I knew were not going to be there this year. And quite honestly, even though the hotel was nice, the ballrooms were smaller, it seems, than previous venues. Like I said in the video, this is about the third place that they've held the Triangle Pen Show since I started going. Once was the first time I ever went, it was over in Cary, and then over at Crabtree Valley Mall area at a hotel there, and now out towards Durham. And like I said, nice hotel. It's just the meeting rooms and the ballrooms seem a little smaller, so they had fewer tables this year. They actually had 2 different rooms, and that meant for a smaller show. My understanding, too, is that Raleigh, being one of the smaller shows by comparison to like DC or Atlanta or Chicago, let's say, they tend to apparently not be quite as profitable for some vendors who have been going year after year. And I was talking just today with a local, mind you. This is a guy who's local and is a custom maker. They were not there, set up at the Triangle Pen Show, even though it was the next town over, let's say, from where he lives, not far from where he's at. I guess a lot of custom makers decided it's really not worth it for them to pay to fly, pay to stay at the hotel, pay for a table, and then meals and time off from a normal job if they've got one, kind of thing. So there was only, I think, one custom maker and one guy who does custom work, but he also predominantly works with kit pens. So I got to see them and some of the same faces I'm used to seeing that do a lot of vintage stuff. So that was kind of neat to see some of those same faces and to take a look at what was available. I don't have a huge pen haul, but I do have a haul. Even though it's small in number, it's actually halfway decent. and you'll see why here in just a minute. I took an executive decision while at the show that even though, we brought my GoPro camera and we started to video a little bit walking around the rooms, I decided against doing a full-on walkthrough video this year. I just wasn't up for it, and quite honestly, it was a small show. It wasn't overly crowded, although they had a halfway decent crowd, I guess, for a Friday afternoon. And I decided to take a few pictures. I'm not going to share them all. I'll share a few of them here with you. There were two large vendors that are there at a lot of shows, and I'm always looking forward to seeing Crazy Alan from Crazy Alan's Emporium, who is changing his business model just a little bit, and he's going to be doing more pen shows and more online presence. And one of the things, I stopped and looked at Alan's table, and I had some gorgeous pens that I wanted to check out. And my big thing, this is all I got, is a Clairefontaine writing pad. I've got some pen pals that I keep in touch with, and I've got 3 or 4 of these, and I figured I'd get at least one more to stock up. I also was over at Federalist Pens and talking with Frank. I've known Frank a long time. I've bought a lot from him over the past several years, and I would get some stationery from him too, as well as some inks and some pens. And I'll show you something I just got from him. And I asked him if he had any Ayush stuff. Ayush, I don't mind. It's a little coarse, but I love the line spacing on Ayush, and I love, one of the things in my favorite on notepads is the top bind. I like that better than side bind any day. So that's what I prefer, and that's one of the reasons I like this Clairefontaine, not to mention the paper itself. I like Clairefontaine paper probably just about better than any other paper that I write with. I've got Life paper that I kind of like. Now, Frank had some Life paper, but they were the smaller ones, A6, A5. That's not my favorite size. I like the A4. I like the 8.5 by 11 size pads, and that's typically what I get. All right, now walking around, talking to some of the people there, and always making some new friends. I talked to Paul, who has Paul's Fountain Pen Journal. I've seen this online, and I've debated about whether or not to subscribe to the Fountain Pen Journal. And as I'm looking at his pens, he said, "Hey, do you like vintage pens?" And I said, "Yeah, for the most part. I like some new ones too, but I like a lot of vintage stuff." And I was eyeballing some good vintage stuff. I mean, I saw some Wall Eversharp Skylines I was thinking about getting, and even a modern Skyline, just for comparison's sake, because I've never had a modern Skyline. I actually looked at some other Wall Eversharp Deco bands that I seriously thought about picking up, some Watermans that were project pens I thought about that I could probably get, and Conklin. We're talking vintage Conklin crescent fillers, and I was checking out all those, and I was really interested in some of them, but I did not pick those up. I exercised a little bit of restraint. Why? Number 1, budget. Didn't have a tremendous budget. Number 2, I'm going to the St. Louis Pen Show in 2 weeks. And number 3, I'm going to be at the DC show. So I've got 2 more pen shows to go to. I didn't want to, shoot my entire wad or go into incredible debt. But he asked me if I was interested in checking out his magazine. And I guess it's like $35 a year, and there's only 3 issues, which is probably the reason why I did not subscribe online. But he offered for me to just check out one of them. So I paid him like $15 to get one. For a single issue, and he has got back issues if I'm interested in checking them out. But I'll sit and I'll check out this magazine. I'll be honest with you, I subscribe to some magazines I don't even really sit and read as much as I should, but I'll check this out to see if it's worth adding to my subscription list. So Paul's Fountain Pen Journal. I've been wanting to check it out, finally got the chance to. I mentioned Federalist Pens. Now, one of the things about Federalist Pens is Frank and I have got both a love of history, and he started to carry some, little historical small notebooks like this, and they're on his website. Some have got George Washington, FDR, Thomas Jefferson kind of thing. Go to his website, federalistpens.com, and you can check those out. So my son Benjamin wanted this, and this is a $4 notepad. Okay, $4, and it's plain. It's just plain paper. So I figured for $4, what the heck, I gave my son something to play with. And lately, Frank has also been getting more and more for Click. Click is an Indian brand, I have actually done a video on the Click Renaissance pens, and I'll try to put a link up to that for you. So he continues to sell those, and he was sharing on social media about these pens right here, and I told him, I said, hey, let me take a look at those when I get there. So as soon as he saw me, he said, hey, yeah, I've got those. And I just dropped a little bit of documentation or stuff out of this thing, but here we go. Cartridge converter, they came with it, and the reason I'm holding these up is because they kind of fell out. So out of this box, but you know, that nice little click thing there. And the one that interested me was this right here. It's a demonstrator pen. You can eyedropper it if you want, but it's also a cartridge converter filler if I want. And these have Yovo nibs. So Click pens, they have had Indian-made nibs previously, but I went ahead and I figured I'll give it a shot. It's a Yovo, and I think retail price was like 85 bucks. And Frank knocked a few bucks off from it for me, just because he knows me well and he knows that I buy an awful lot. I'm looking at it here. The only thing that's a little odd is, you know, I can see where the drill bit came down and has that little rounded nipple there instead of it being flat. And I love demonstrator pens. I absolutely love them. And I figured, all right, I'll go ahead and pick it up. I'll play with it. I'll maybe eyedropper it if I'm feeling ambitious and put a grease seal in here. And we'll see. I'll do a video on this, I'm sure, when the time comes. So little, you know, made in India right there on the back of the box. So Click. And let's see what it says. Click Renaissance Fountain Pen Demonstrator GT. So I've already done the Renaissance models, but I haven't done the GT, and I'm not sure what the GT stands for. I'll have to go look that up. But I do know the GT came with a Yovo nib as opposed to a house-branded nib. All right, now walking around, the cool thing about pen shows, you get to know some people, and sometimes you get to know them enough to have a first name basis with them. And when you see them time and again, you follow them sometimes on social media, you follow what they're doing, and you have good conversation and about their families, and you get to know them a little bit because you see them show after show after show and you follow them on social media. Well, Troy DeLung, D-E-L-U-N-G, he's a guy I see at fountain pen shows or pen shows all the time, DC and in Raleigh. And he knows me by name. Why? We got the same first name, and it's not a very common name. So I said, hey, Troy, how you doing? He's like, hey, Troy, how you? So, you know, we didn't get all into the bro hug and everything. No, good firm handshake and talk about, hey, how was your vacation? I know that you went to Disney World, kind of thing, because we follow each other on social media. But he was over with Martin 51 fountain pens. Here's a picture of him, and here's a picture of the banner for their business, and I see them at shows all the time. And I was able to scratch off another one off from my list. I literally have a list of pens that I want. I have a wish list, and I literally keep it in a spreadsheet. And every so often, I can literally cross one off, and I'm about to cross one off when I pull up my spreadsheet. But he had this. He had an old Sailor. I got to be honest with you, folks. I'm not a lover of Sailor pens. I'm just not. I have not found Sailors that I absolutely love. I got a 1911 large. Love the size of it. Love the color. Not a lover of the nib. We have 1911s here. I have one. Matthew has one. Not a lover of them. I've borrowed one, and I did a review of one, of a Sailor King of Pens, and you know, it was okay. You know, but I thought maybe after having played with it, I might like the size down. Sort of like on the Mont Blanc 149, I actually like the 146 better. So I said, well, let me try the 1911 large as opposed to the 1911 King of Pens. Well, one of the things that Sailor King of Pen, got to get that right, it's King of Pen, not King of Pens. I guess Japanese don't pluralize that. But they the King of Pen just seems to be whatever model that they make, just making it bigger. I had one on my wish list, and I've seen some on Amazon, favorited on Amazon. But the thing is, it can be a beautiful pen unless it's got a good nib. I won't be using it. It could be an incredible waste of money. I took a risk on this one right here because at that table, Troy had a Sailor King of Pen, and I looked at it, I said, "That a little older model, isn't it?" He said, "Yep, it is." He said, "But it comes with a box." And actually had a, is that Mount Fuji? A postcard in there. Pretty cool. And it came with this box. So it looks to be an older box and an older model. And when you open it up, it came with all the paperwork. It's got that. It's a little sailor on the back. And then it's got, even comes with a cartridge. And this one is a broad nib. Excellent. I am not a fan of Japanese nibs in general. That's just me. That's my personal taste. Some of you are like, "You don't like Sailor? You don't like Japanese nibs? That's heresy." To each his own taste. I prefer Western nibs. I prefer German, the other half of the Axis powers nibs. So that's just me, okay? I have not had great success with Sailor. Little better success with Pilot than with Sailor. But I'm not a lover thus far of Japanese. And usually when I want to get a Japanese nib or an Asian nib in general, I have to get broad in order to suit my taste. This one happened to be a broad nib. And Troy assured me that he loves this nib, that on this particular pen, it has a great nib on it. So here's a good size. I like the size of it. That's a plus. I like black. All right, we're there. King of Pen. And then it's got that right there on the cap band. And a big old beautiful looking Sailor nib. Cartridge converter. Converter's already in it. So I'm going to get to play with it, and I'm going to fill it up, and I'm going to see if I like it, and I'm hoping that I do. So that's my pen haul. So you can see why I said, it's not a lot of pen haul. It's not a big pen haul, but it's still fairly big when you consider the King of Pen that I got. Another thing that Troy did for me is he threw in some ink samples. He had a bunch of them at his table, and he chucked in a bunch of ink samples for me. So that means that I'm going to be busy sometime soon with my Rolodex here. And what I do is, I do ink swatches for all my samples. So I'm going to be making at least 9 more of those. So there it is, folks. That's my pen haul for the Triangle Pen Show 2023. Overall thoughts. Unfortunately, the Raleigh show was smaller than it has been in years past. Matter of fact, I know here on my desk, I've got the, oh, there it is, right there. As I was talking with Terry, the guy who owns the show, and he said, can you believe it's my 20th year doing this? And I thanked him. I said, Terry, I just wanted to thank you that you've been keeping the show going year after year. Because he sees my face year after year. And so he knows who I am, and he's seen my boys, that I brought them to the pen show. And but he sees me, and he sees me in D.C. because I see him in D.C. And we talk when we're in D.C. too. But I did thank him. Yeah, I thanked him profusely for keeping the show going. Like I said, unfortunately the show's smaller than it is usually. There's some people that I wish I could have seen and fellowshipped with, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see maybe in D.C. Since I won't be able to see them anywhere else. St. Louis Pen Show, if you're going to be there, look for us. We're going to have these t-shirts right here. By the way, you can go to my website. There's a link down below in the description if you want one of these shirts. Some people have been buying them here lately. I mean, I logged in. I was like, oh, I didn't know I had sold that many. Cool. And basically all it is, and like my profit on each one is like boop, tiny, because I'm not selling them for profit. And I had like $9 in profit for all of the shirts I had sold. That's how little I make just to be able to get these into your hands as cheaply as possible. And I think like $15 to be able to get one, and it's a high quality shirt, by the way. But you know, at least two of us, you know, my boys, one of them had one that still fit, so we wore those. But look for us in St. Louis. We'll see some of these shirts on us. My wife and my son Matthew will both be with me at the St. Louis show, and look for us in DC as well. So, but I'll report back on that Click pen, and hopefully on the Sailor King of Pen, and maybe I can actually find a rough year of manufacture on that King of Pen. I know it's an older one, but that's cool with me. As long as it's the nib that I want and the quality that I want, then I'll be happy. And like I said, I can cross one off my wish list that I don't ever have to look for again, and I can take it off my wish list on Amazon just because I just put it there. Not that was where I was going to buy it anyway. But anyway, all right, guys. Look forward to seeing you there. Feel free to reach out and say hey when you see me. I always enjoy meeting people and networking with folks. There's always some good conversations I get to have. And unfortunately today I only had that much time. And this is the only day I could make it to the Raleigh show. Talk to you later. Bye.